Okay, today in lesson 1-4 part 2, we are going to be talking about point slope form. Okay, for your point slope form, we're going to be talking about what you guys can do to find the equation of a line if they give you a point and a slope, or if they just give you 2 points. Obviously, if they give you that stuff, you could graph that line, but we're talking about how do we algebraically figure out what that line is for y equals mx plus b. And then after we talk about that, your second video is going to kind of tie in with parallel and perpendicular lines, and we're going to look at a type of problem and how we can use our point slope form to help us with those parallel and perpendicular lines. So we'll get started with this first video. First off, what is our point slope form? Well, your point slope form is y minus, make sure that's a minus, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay? So, one thing up there that we should see, our m. M is our slope. And you guys should know that by now. Okay? So they will give you the slope, or you might have to find the slope, but we know how to find the slope. Okay? The y and the x, they're just the y and the x. Remember, our goal with this is to eventually get it into y equals mx plus b form. So our y is just the y here, and our x is just the x here. Okay? So the points that we might not know would be the y sub 1 and the x sub 1. So what is x sub 1? Whoops. What is our x sub 1 and our y sub 1? Well, that makes up another point. Okay? So this is going to be some specific point that is going to be given to you guys. Okay? So your point slope form is going to be useful if you know a point and you know a slope, which is how it's got its name. Okay? So we're going to go ahead and practice using our point slope form here first. Okay? We have write the equation of a line through 5, -2 with a slope of -3/5. So what formula do we want to use here? Well, I was given a point and I was given a slope, so why don't we use our point slope formula? So recall your point slope formula, y minus y1 equals m times x minus x sub 1. Okay? So, x sub 1, I'm going to be looking at the x coordinate of my point. Y sub 1, I'll be looking at the y coordinate of my point. And then my slope, which is this guy right here, we're going to be plugging in for our m. So when you guys do that, you get y minus, okay, my y sub 1. So it's y minus, that y sub 1 is a -2. So I've got y minus -2 equals my slope. My slope is a -3/5 times x minus my x sub 1. My x sub 1 up here is a 5. So y minus a +5. Okay, so I didn't really give you guys any steps, but your step 1 is really just to plug in to our point slope form. Okay, so we're just going to plug it in. Okay, once you guys plug it in, your step 2 is to solve for y. Because our goal is we want to get this into that y or that slope intercept form. Okay? All right. So, starting out, the first thing that I want to do when I solve for y, so we could give it a step 3, is you want to distribute. I would do that first, distribute. So, I've got a -3/5 times x, which gives me a -3/5 x. They just end up sticking together there. And then I also have a -3/5 times a -5. So negative times a negative gives me a positive. And then 3/5 times 5, you can plug that into your calculator if you want. It should give you 15/5. Remember, this is like a 5/1. So 3 times 5 is 15. 5 times 1 is going to be 5. 15/5 reduces down to just a 3. Okay? Now on the left side, there is one thing that we can do here. I've got a y minus -2. Remember, those two negatives make a +2. So this is really just a y plus 2 equals -3/5 x plus 3. So step 3, we were going to distribute. you could say your step 4 then, after you distribute, you want to move the number to other side. Move the number to the other side. Okay, so in order to do that, I'm going to subtract 2. Subtract 2 gives me y equals negative 3/5 x, and then a positive 3 and a negative 2 gives me a positive 1. So there you go. That's finding the equation of a line in our slope-intercept form based on the fact that we were given a point and we were given a slope. Okay? So, next, I want you guys to pause the video, try this one on your own. It's the exact same question. Write the equation in slope-intercept form for the line that has a slope of 2/3 and passes through negative 3, negative 1. So go ahead and pause, try that on your own. Okay, hopefully you guys have tried that on your own. First step, we're going to recall our point slope formula, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? When I do that, I need to identify what is my slope. Slope is 2/3. And then I've got my other point. So this is my x sub 1. That's my y sub 1. So y minus my y sub 1 is a negative 1 equals m. Our m is that 2/3 times x minus my x sub 1 is a negative 3. Okay? Some people, before they distribute, might want to just go ahead, hey, 2 negatives, make that a positive. 2 negatives, make that a positive. That's perfectly fine to do, especially when you're going to distribute. So I've got that 2/3 x. Okay, and then I'm going to be distributing 2/3, so I probably want to make that a positive 3 at the beginning. So 2/3 times 3 ends up giving me just a 2. It'd be a 6/3. 6/3 reduces to 2. And I've still got that is y plus 1. Okay, so we're all good there. Got y plus 1 equals 2/3 x plus 2. I then need to subtract 1. Subtract 1. I get y equals 2/3 x plus 1. So y-intercept of 1 again. Okay? So pretty simple with our point slope form. Okay? There is one trick that they will throw in with this, and we'll go ahead and do one here on this next slide. It says, what is the equation of the line what is the equation of the line through 2, negative 3, and negative 3, 7? Okay, so this one, we can't use point slope form yet. Because point slope form works if they've given us a point and they've given us the slope. But they have not given us the slope. All they've done is they've given us 2 points. Okay? But if I have 2 points, can I find the slope? And the answer is yes. Okay, so the first step when you're dealing with problems like this is you need to find your slope first. After you find your slope, everything's going to be the exact same. Okay, so to find my slope, I'm going to use m equals the y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. Okay, I need to identify what's my first point, what's my second point. I usually make this my first, make this one my second. Okay, it doesn't matter though. Okay, we talked about that with that last one. It doesn't matter which one you make first, which one you make second. Okay, our y's are on top. Y's are on top because that's our rise. So we're going to go, we are going to go 7 minus negative 3 over negative 3 minus 2. Okay. 7 minus negative 3, 2 negatives make that a positive, so this gives me 10. Negative 3 minus 2 gives me a negative 5. So 10 over negative 5, that reduces down to a negative 2. Okay, so now we know our slope is a negative 2. All we need is a point. Which point do I want to use? Do I want to use this one, or do I want to use this one? And the answer is, it doesn't matter. No matter which point you use, you're going to end up getting the exact same answer. Okay? So, I'm going to go ahead and plug in. I've got my point slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m times x minus x1. Okay? Let's say I'm going to use this point here. So I will go y minus my y sub 1, which is 7, equals my m. We found out that our slope was a -2. X minus my x sub 1 here was a -3. Okay. Like I said, we got two negatives. Let's go ahead and take care of that, make that a plus. So I've got y minus 7 equals, distribute our -2, so we've got -2x. Distribute our -2 to now a +3. -2 times 3 gives me a -6. Add 7 to both sides. I get y equals -2x plus 1. Okay. And just to prove to you guys that it doesn't matter which points you use, we'll do the other one over here as well. I've got y minus, my y value here is a -3, equals our slope, which is -2, times x minus, and then our x value for this is a 2. Okay, so I'm just going to work my way through. Two negatives make that a positive, so that's a y plus 3 equals, distribute my -2, so I got -2x. -2 times -2 ends up giving me a +4. I need to get the y by itself, so I'm going to subtract 3, and I end up with y equals -2x plus 1. So you guys can see it doesn't matter which points you use, you're going to end up giving me, or going to end up getting the exact same answer. Okay? One example, pause the video, try it on your own. Okay? Pause the video, try this one on your own. Okay, so first thing we have to do is we're going to identify our slope. I usually make that 0.1, make that 0.2. So I'm going to go m equals my y sub 2. So I'm going to have 3 minus 5. And then I'm going to have a -1 minus 2. Okay. Oops. Sorry, I forgot to change the color on the 2. That equals, what is -3 minus 5? That gives me a -2. -1 minus 2 gives me a -3. So I've got -2 over -3. We do want to reduce that. That only reduces down to, though, a positive 2/3. So really all it does is it gets rid of the negatives. Okay? So now I have my slope. Again, do I want to use this point? Do I want to use this point? It doesn't matter. Pick which one you want to use. If I was you guys, I'm going to pick this one. And the only reason is it doesn't have any negatives. So I don't have to worry about remembering negatives. Okay? I'm going to plug those values in. So I'm going to go y minus 5 equals my m, which is 2/3, times x minus 2. I am going to simplify. I've got y minus 5, gives me a y minus 5. 2/3 times x gives me 2/3 x. Okay, and then this one's going to get a little trickier here. I've got 2/3 times a -2. That one's not really going to reduce into anything nice. It's really just a 2 over 1, remember? So 2 times 2 is 4 over 3. So I've got a -4/3. Okay, you can use your calculator. That will end up working out easier if you use your calculator. Okay, I still have to get y by itself, so I'm going to add 5 to both sides. So I've got my y equals 2/3 x. Okay, little review on adding fractions. If you have a -4/3 plus 5, you have to get a common denominator. That would be a 5 over 1, so I need it to be over 3. Okay, so 5 over 1, I need the bottom to be 3. So I've got to do the same thing to the top, so it's really 15/3. So you've got a -4/3 plus 15/3 gives me a positive 11/3. You can also use your calculator to add those fractions together if you don't like doing it the way I did. Okay? But that is how you guys can use point slope form. Next video is going to talk to you guys about using point slope form with parallel and perpendicular lines.